The only public comment we got was a guy.
Yeah.
Victor.
Scott.
Okay. What about?
I don't know. We just asked.
All right, we're up. Thank you for coming to our August 15th board meeting. I want to call the meeting to order and tell you what it means to us that you do come and take part in our local county government. Ask Craig Slade, would you pray for us, Craig?
Let's pray. Father, thank you for our time together today. Thank you for the day that you've given us and giving us breath to breathe. Father, life to enjoy, a community that is incredible. Thank you for the blessings of this community, how you have abundantly provided resources for us. We acknowledge that all good and perfect things come from you. Father, thank you for giving these men what they need today. They need wisdom and discernment, yes. Father, help them to use their skills that you've granted them to the best of their ability to serve their fellow man. Thank you for the sacrifices that they and their families make every day to serve this community. Thank you for the men and women who protect us every day. Our first responders, our emergency operations people, Father, our law enforcement especially, thank you for them, for the sacrifices that they and their families made. Would you protect them, bring them home safely in Christ's name?
Amen. Let's see, we've got public comment and recognition. I see one. Scott Williams, would you come on up and give us a brief? Is he here?
He's kind of flat. He said he would be here, but it'd probably be about 9:15 or so. He is on the way.
Okay. Mike, you got somebody can help him? Where's Mike? I see our former governor. Is he on the agenda somewhere else, or are we gonna do?
The governor has an interest in a matter that's on the agenda later.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll move on. Do I have a motion to approve the old business minutes?
I make a motion to approve August 5th and 13th minutes.
I second Mr. Calhoun's motion.
All right, Brad makes a motion, Scott seconds that motion. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Now, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion.
All right, Sid makes a motion to approve.
Second.
Brad seconds that motion. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. All right, Mr. Delay, you're up.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
First section that I have this morning is something that we do this time of year every year. This is our time to receive ad valorem property tax assessment protests. And so we have protests that have been provided to the county in a timely fashion. They have been reviewed, and they are now before you guys for action. The first is, and by the way, these are public hearings, and so I'm going to open a public hearing for the AV Properties LLC. This has to do with Rankin County parcel D7J-8 and D7J-7. These are PPINs 4955 and 4954. It says that there is a representative, Mr. C.W. Chapman, or Miss C.W. Chapman, that is on behalf of AV Properties. That information has been provided. The matter has been reviewed by the tax assessor. After the objection, the materials that were provided as a part of the objection have been reviewed by the tax assessor. Is there anyone here on behalf of AV Properties LLC to speak to the board? Mr. President, I don't see anyone here to speak on behalf of AV Properties. I will ask Madam Assessor Stacy, do we have a recommendation on this particular objection?
I do request that y'all accept the tax assessment.
Okay, and so as is typical for us when we receive an objection and we've reviewed the materials, if the assessor is satisfied with the original assessment, that would be the recommendation. The board, I'm going to close that public hearing since there's no one here. We'll receive whatever documentation has been submitted on behalf of AV Properties LLC. It'll be a part of the record. But there's no one here to speak on the matter or give you any additional information. The assessor's recommendation stands. And so I'd need a motion to accept the assessor's valuation for AV properties for all parcels that are included.
I'll make a motion.
Brad makes a motion to accept the tax assessor's value of the property.
Second.
Jay seconds that motion. Do I have any comments, any other comments? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
The second item under the objections or protests to property tax assessments is item B. This is Reservoir Square Shopping Center. Gentlemen, there's several parcels that are involved there in PPINs. You can see those on your agenda. They're listed. That public hearing is open. I will ask if there is anyone here on behalf of Reservoir Square Shopping Center to address the board. Is there anyone here? Mr. President, there does not appear to be anyone here representing Reservoir Square Shopping Center. I'll ask the assessor same question. Stacy, do we have a recommendation on Reservoir Square?
We requested to accept the values.
Okay. The assessor's recommendation is to reject the objection and the materials and the supporting materials, and to accept the value as originally determined by the assessor. I would need a motion to that effect on item B.
Do I have a motion? I make a motion. Jay seconds the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Just as a precaution, Mr. President, those are the two items that are listed for public hearing today. I want to ask if there's anyone here that has filed an objection, anyone here who has filed an objection that wishes to address the board on a filed objection, even though it's not on the agenda. Mr. President, I don't see anyone here representing any other taxpayers with respect to an objection to the extent that any materials were submitted, but no request for a hearing has been presented. We will, of course, accept the assessor's valuation for all of those as well. I don't need a motion, I'm just announcing on the
So all the
record.
rest were settled, y'all resolved everything?
They were either resolved or nobody's bothered to show up.
Good deal.
They were all accepted.
All right. Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. I'll
Thank
be
you.
back up here in a minute.
All right, tax assessor, Ms. McNich, you're up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Item A, petitions to adjust 23 homestead exemption supplemental roll.
I'll make a motion. Approve.
Brad makes a motion.
Second.
Scott seconds the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. B, petitions for change of assessment on 23 real property assessments.
Motion approved.
Brad makes a motion. Jay seconds the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
And on item C, I'm going to hit that over to Craig.
Item C is so easy, she's gonna let the chauffeur handle it. Item C is our annual request for approval of Avalon tax exemptions. We get these about this time every year. They have a deadline that they have to request their exemption by. Those are all reviewed by the tax assessor's office, and the assessor gives us what's called a position statement on eligibility for these exemptions. If each taxpayer meets all of the requirements established either by state law or by this board, then they presumptively can be eligible for a tax exemption. So I have position statements for each of these that are listed here. Gentlemen, unfortunately, we need to go through these because some of them require your attention. I want you to be aware of what's being asked, and I also want to express appreciation to the assessor and to the assessor's staff for all of the work that they have to go through to evaluate these exemption requests and to determine eligibility. It is not easy to go through all of these, and so I appreciate the work that they do and how easy they make it for me as we move through the approval process. The first item that we're going to be looking at for an ad valorem exemption is Nucor Steel. They are located in Flowood. One of your requirements before an exemption, they are eligible for an exemption, is that the city of Flowood, since they are resident in the city of Flowood, the city of Flowood has to grant this exemption. Flowood has done so. They otherwise meet the exemption. Gentlemen, while I may go through these, I'm going to only ask that you take action on the approvals. or the denials. And so as we move through, we'll have one action that would be to grant, and we'll have another action to deny. So bear with me, and we'll move through these systematically. New Core Steel will be a grant. General Recycling of Mississippi, also a Flowood resident. City of Flowood has granted that exemption. They are eligible for the exemption. They'll be in approval. We have a new one this year, Jackson Hart. This is under, and I appreciate the fact that we have Governor Bryant with us today. Governor, this is one of our medical corridor folks, so it works. It actually worked. So Jackson Hart has relocated to the Rankin County Medical Corridor, and they have become eligible. The timing is now right for Jackson Hart to secure a medical corridor tax exemption. They have full eligibility, and they will be granted a total exemption as of completion date of $17,605,918 will be the total value, the exemption that'll be granted to Jackson Hart. They built a brand new facility, and they brought a lot of jobs for Rankin County. That's a good win for Rankin County. Denbury onshore. Denbury is one of those special classifications taxpayer that has a statute that says Rankin County Board of Supervisors shall grant an exemption. And so we don't have a whole lot of flexibility when they use the word shall. Denbury is requesting a 10-year exemption, and they are eligible for that exemption, and they will be granted that exemption. They also have, CO2 recycling facility. They've got 2 of those on separate parcels, 3 of those. Stacy, you loaded me up with Denbury's. It looks like there's at least 3 of those. The next one is Imperial Bag and Paper, Jackson Paper. This is at the discretion of the board. If Imperial Board meets the qualifications for a Freeport, they do not have anything on file with Flowood, and so I'm going to need you guys to tell me whether or not they are eligible for the Freeport on the basis that the city does not appear to have acted. Discretion of the board on Applied Technologies. To meet the qualification, they do not have an exemption on file with the city of Richland. Same thing for the Calvert Company. We don't believe that they are eligible for a Freeport. We don't believe that these are finished goods, and therefore they are not eligible for that. So that would be the Calvert Company. Have I left anybody out, Miss Stacy? Did I get everybody? Okay. So, gentlemen, this would be our recommendation today. We are asking that you grant an exemption, and I would need a motion to approve the exemption request for Denbury Onshore, JHC Holding, which is Jackson Hart Clinic, General Recycling of Mississippi, and New Core Steel. I need a motion to approve those exemption requests.
Do we have to do that today, or can we?
These
These meet the requirements.
Yes.
are
Right.
thumbs up. Now, I know what you're saying, because
Right.
there's 1 or 2 others that haven't gone to the city,
Right.
and
You're not going to grant those.
There's a
Okay.
time frame that it has to be.
they
done.
have to be done by September 15th or something like that.
Yes, sir. The vast majority of these are going to be renewals of an already existing exemption. And in Jackson Hart's situation, the board before this board already granted authority for the exemption and told the Mississippi Development Authority that they would be given the exemption if they met the requirements. They've met the requirements now. It's all just timing. So in essence, it's just paperwork.
Let's take those 3 and ask for a motion and see where we go, and then we'll handle the others. How
Yes,
about that?
There's 4.
Is there
Yes,
4?
4 that we're going
I've
to
got
approve.
JHC Holden, let's see, Denbury's gonna cover more than one, isn't it?
Yes, so they've got 3 different parcels, but it's
But
just
under
one
one?
motion. Yes, sir.
And Newcorp. That makes
General
it 4.
Recycling and New
Yeah,
Core.
I got, all right, do I have a motion to approve these 4?
I'll make a motion.
All right. Jay makes a motion, Brad seconds a motion to approve Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Now,
The three requests that I am suggesting that the board consider denying because they do not meet all of the eligibility requirements are Imperial Bag and Paper or Jackson Paper, Applied Industrial Technologies in Richland, and the Calvert Company in Richland. Those would be deny the request for exemption.
none of these have went through the cities?
Yes, sir, that's correct. Each of those that I just listed do not have a corresponding exemption from the city.
We've already dealt with that Calvert.
We have last year.
Yeah.
All right, do I have a motion to
Make a
deny?
motion to deny these three.
Second.
Jay makes a motion to deny, Scott seconds that motion. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes to deny.
Gentlemen, we have a number of requests for exemption that are being made by nonprofit entities. These would fall under the general classification of nonprofit or charitable work that is exempt from ad valorem tax under Mississippi law. By the way, if I didn't say it, the request for exemption, we're receiving each of the position statements, we're receiving all of the documentation that's been provided by the assessor, and that will be a part of our record today. We'll make this available to the clerk to hold, okay? Those would be both the approvals and the denials of the requested tax exemptions. This tax exemption that we're about to talk about is under what's called nonprofit status, Mississippi Code annotated 2731-1. In each case, what we have here is a nonprofit entity, and I'm going to list these for you. And what they are asserting through their paperwork is that they are engaged in charitable work that qualifies for the exemption. First is Mississippi Association of Independent Schools, MAIS. This is a real property and personal property exemption on property where they have, I'm assuming this is their headquarters or it's a facility that they operate out of in Rankin County. And so they are making the assertion that they qualify for the exemption. Gentlemen, I think it'd be best for us to take these one at a time. Mississippi Association of Independent Schools is a nonprofit association under Mississippi law, and so presumptively they have eligibility for that. I have no reason to suggest to the board that they don't qualify. I think they probably do qualify, given that it is in fact a school association of schools. These are primarily faith-based organizations, and so there's the additional trapping of a religious purpose that is behind that. And so I think they are eligible for and should be granted. I'd need a motion to grant MAIS's request for tax exemption.
I'll make a motion.
Sid makes a motion, Scott seconds a motion. Any other discussion?
Yeah, why are they showing up now? They've never done this before.
Yeah, I'm assuming that somebody that works with them or helps them, maybe CPAJ, has picked up on the fact that they have been paying ad valorem tax on that facility and personal property tax on that facility, and that they have not claimed eligibility for the exemption as a nonprofit association. So they're trying to make that happen. If they don't tell us that they're claiming that exemption, we don't automatically grant it to them.
Do you have a location for
Let's see here.
Is it in Pearl?
They are 176 Country Place Parkway, Pearl.
Okay.
Okay.
It's inside the subdivision.
No, it's that road that goes parallel to I-20.
I got you. Yeah, I know where you're talking about. Going toward Hines.
Going towards Hines.
That's
All right, do I have a motion?
You got the two
Sid
names
made a
on
motion.
Sid Scott.
Scott second the motion. Now, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
The next one, gentlemen, and this, hopefully what you'll start to gather here is that there are some distinguishing characteristics for each of these entities that we kind of look at, that I as legal counsel look at. And primarily what I'm looking for is some sort of clear charitable purpose to the activities, a clear charitable purpose. That is, and when we think about charity, we think about folks that are underserved, underprivileged, folks that are indigent. What are they doing to assist those in our community that need some form of charity? The next one is from the Better Business Bureau of Mississippi, Inc. Yes, it is a 501c6 business association, but I ask myself, what is their charitable purpose? And I struggle. I don't know. They may be exempt from federal income tax because they are organized as a business association, but we don't have an income tax. The county doesn't charge income tax. And so that's not a distinguishing characteristic. I am unable to discern myself, and I don't know if anyone is anyone here on behalf of the Better Business Bureau of Mississippi, Inc.? I'm not aware of a charitable purpose, indigency services that they provide. I'm not familiar with that. And so my recommendation on Better Business Bureau of Mississippi, Inc. is to deny that requested exemption. I would need a motion to that effect.
All right, do I have a motion?
Motion to deny?
Jay makes motion to deny.
Second.
Brad seconds that motion. Any other discussion? All in favor?
The next item is from a entity that appears to be a nonprofit, although I'm not familiar with how it is organized at its corporate form. It's called Amazing Grace 247. This is at 140 Old Highway 80A in Brandon. They are leasing that location, so this would be a personal property tax exemption only. Does everybody understand that? Not real property. They're leasing that facility. So what they do is they resell donated items to raise fund for nonprofit, the nonprofit Amazing Grace 247's mission, which is women supporting women and children. They claim to be a charitable nonprofit, although I don't have information about their corporate form. Gentlemen, this one would appear to have some type of charitable purpose if you look at this exemption request. What I would like to do, with your permission, is to confirm that there is an understanding of whether or not this is in fact a nonprofit corporation as established under Mississippi law. Are they a nonprofit entity so that they would be eligible for the exemption? And so I would ask that you conditionally grant this exemption and allow for the board of lawyer to figure out exactly how are they organized corporately. So I would ask that be the motion.
That would be my motion.
All right, Scott makes a motion.
I'll second.
Sid seconds the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
The next is from Journey Church, Mississippi, Inc. This is in fact a 501c3. They are now located in a new facility that they have acquired, 339 Cross Park Drive, 39208. I'm very familiar with this church. It's a local church. They are organized as a church. It doesn't matter whether or not they are in fact qualified as a nonprofit with the Secretary of State. That doesn't matter. They are a church. They're automatically qualified. On this one, I think we should go through the formality of authorizing this exemption for Journey Church of Mississippi, Inc.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Brad makes a motion to approve.
Second.
Jay seconds that motion. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
The next request comes from East Flow Church. This is a real property exemption, and they are located at 2917 Highway 80 East in Pearl. They acquired the property in March of this year. They are in fact a church. And so just like Journey Church, I would request a motion to grant East Flow Church's request for an exemption.
All right, do I have a motion? Jay makes a motion.
Second.
Scott seconds the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. President, to move us along a little quicker, I've got two more that are also churches. One is Word of Faith Christian Center, and I'll tell you where that is. That is at 1103 Keeling Way. I'm not familiar with that. You know where that one is. It says 047.
So the church is actually, Word of Faith is actually not located in Rankin County. This located in Rankin.
Okay. All right, so this one would be slightly different. What the board has to determine is this being used as a part of their charitable purpose? They're making this facility available for their church leadership. And so I would say that presumptively they do qualify for an exemption for this. It's actually controlled by the church, not by the pastor, according to what I'm seeing in the title documents. And so I think presumptively, Word of Faith Christian Center, Mississippi is the title owner of the property. So I think they are entitled to the exemption. The second one is the Bridge Church, Inc. This is at Country Place Parkway. It is connected to some other properties. Is this part of, Stacy, do we know what's going on with this one? It's called the Bridge Church, Inc. It's a 501c3 under Mississippi law. It looks like that they are conducting church activities, religious activities. They are listed with the Secretary of State as a nonprofit. They are in good standing. I think they meet the definition. I don't see anything in the application to give me pause. So I would ask for a motion on both Word of Faith and Bridge Church, Inc. to grant those requested exemptions.
So how is this purchased by a church or not taxable?
If you grant the tax exemption because they are in fact a part of the charitable purpose of the church, I'm fixing to get to one where we're going to be able to talk about this distinction. But a parsonage, Jay,
Yeah.
the short answer is it depends. Standard lawyer answer, it depends. There are going to be situations where church ownership does not automatically mean qualify for an exemption. And I've got the next one that we get to, that's going to become abundantly clear what I'm talking about. But a parsonage, in the classic sense, where it's available for the church leadership as part of their ministry, he literally is paid by being provided housing. It's a part of his compensation package as pastor. So I think that qualifies.
All right, on Word of Faith and Bridge Church, Inc., do I have a motion?
Motion.
Okay.
Second.
Brad makes a motion.
Second.
Scott seconds the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The next one, gentlemen, is we're going to handle as a package. But I want you to understand that what it is a common ownership of multiple medical provider properties scattered around Rankin County. The owner of the properties is Franciscan Missionaries of Our Lady out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, St. Dominic. And so St. Dominic has been active in acquiring medical properties all over Rankin County, establishing facilities all over Rankin County that provide medical services. We've looked at this and we've evaluated this. The requested exemption is under, they actually made the exemption under two code sections. The first is 2731.1, which is the standard charitable purpose exemption. They also made a request under 2731.15. I don't know why, because that applies to electric power associations. So unless St. Dominic has gotten into the electric business, and I wasn't aware of that, they're not entitled to that exemption. They probably use a good bit of electricity, but they're not an electric power association. They're not entitled to exemption under that code section. Under 2731.1, all property, real or personal, belonging to any religious society, ecclesiastical body, or any congregation thereof, or to any charitable society, or to any historical or patriotic association or society, or garden or pilgrimage club or association, and used exclusively for such society or association and not for profit, that's the key. If they're using the facility for their charitable purpose as a not-for-profit, then there is eligibility. We've looked at each of the requests, and I'll give you a quick summation as best I can. I'll give you a quick summation of what we're talking about here. Stacy, do you have each of those by chance listed, each of the entities that they've made their request on? Have you got those, or have I got all that paperwork? Yeah, this is a stack of them, guys. It's about 6 or 7 different things. I'm gonna have to look behind each of these. The first one is for St. Dominic Medical Associates on Government Street in Brandon. It's the one in front of City Hall. You're familiar with that one?
Make a motion to deny.
Okay, so can I go through them, Jay, and tell you which one it is right quick? All right, so the second one is St. Dominic Medical Associates on Bell Mead and Flowood. The next one, St. Dominic Medical Associates, this would be in Pelahatchie. So it's their primary care facilities scattered throughout Rankin County. The next one is St. Dominic Jackson Memorial Hospital Family Practice Associates, River Oaks. Again, a primary care facility. Southern Diagnostic Imaging in Flowood, MRIs, CAT scans. Central Mississippi Imaging, it's another imaging facility. There's two for Central Imaging. They also provided us with their diocese information from the Catholic Church and some other supporting documentation to show. Here's the issue. I struggle to find a nonprofit charitable purpose for each of these facilities. Each of these facilities is engaged in competitive medical service industry. They are typically lucrative. They are typically in competition with private entities that are for profit. By granting an exemption to these that have no real charitable purpose, and the only connection to 2731.1 that I can find is a common ownership in an entity that is classified as a part of the Catholic Church, and I'm not picking on the Catholic Church, it's just that's a religious organization in and of itself. But the only connection is ownership, and there's no demonstrated showing that there is charitable purposes going on, like indigent services. To my knowledge, they may provide some form of charitable work in each of these facilities, but I think all of that begins life from the standpoint that they expect to be paid for those services. It may end up being charity, but they go in being expected to pay. I'm struggling to find a charitable purpose on the front end. I would request that, and since Jay's already done it, we would need a second to Jay's motion to deny the requested exemptions to the Franciscan Missionaries of Our Lady.
All right, I have a motion by Jay to deny these in a group. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Brad seconds that motion. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Gentlemen,
To deny.
to the extent that it needs to be a part of the record, we have received all of these applications that we just went through. I have all of these documents. They will be made a part of the record of this hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I move back under public comments? Scott Williams, I believe, came in. Can you come up and address our vector mosquito spray and mosquito treating business and
Morning.
what we have found?
Good morning, everybody. Just a quick update on our part, and I answer any questions. So far this season, we've had one human case of West Nile, which we went into our protocol for treating. That area was heavily treated, trapped after the third spraying, and the trap came back positive again. So we did the enhanced spraying again, which is 3 nights. And we've been trapping that area ever since. Everything's come back clear. In fact, really it's not any mosquitoes out there right now. But we had another trap indicated case, which was immediately taken care of, post-trapped. And when I say post-trap, we do like 3 weeks of trapping and send those to the state lab, and they've all come back negative. The mosquito population, of course, is heavily dependent on the weather, rain, and we got into this little bit of drier time before yesterday, so it's been a major help. And it's, we are out there, spraying and doing surveillance work, trapping.
Do we
That's
do a lot,
about it.
you do more spraying or trapping?
We do trapping every week. We have two different types of traps that are targeting, one trap targets the West Nile mosquito itself. And then the other trap tells us what else is out there. And if every area does get sprayed, but okay, our zone 1 is showing a bare minimum of, I think the state threshold is 100. Of course, we respond before that. But zone 2 has got triple the number. Okay, zone 2 is gonna get hit more frequently, but everything is gonna get done. So it's really trap based is where we put our focus. But throughout the course of the month, the entire, county gets sprayed. And so, to answer that question, I would say it's trap based as to where we go.
So Scott, I thought we had 3 cases.
They advertised that in the media, but what I'm hearing from you is 2 of the 3 were
Well, it's the mosquito
reported
itself.
with the mosquito and not,
Right, we had one, to what we have been notified is 1 human case, and then our traps, two traps came back positive. And the state does not normally separate those, and of course, the news media definitely don't.
yeah.
But that's what we know of. And normally, as soon as the state entomologist gets, if it's a human case, soon as she gets confirmation from UMMC that there is a human case, then she notifies us, pretty well hangs up the phone and calls us and what have you. And then the state lab, like I say, does all of our testing, and we're notified if there's a positive.
Yeah.
We're notified the second it comes off of that, I don't know what you call that equipment, but, it sends it out automatically.
Scott, for the public, I mean, most of your spraying is done late in the evenings, correct?
Yes, sir.
Because a lot of people say, well, we don't ever see the guy coming around spraying for mosquitoes. Well, you're probably in the bed.
We run into that question all the time down in Brookhaven. That's one of my contracts. And, in the past, when Brookhaven was spraying, yeah, they were using the same machines, but they weren't calibrated, they weren't droplet tested. All they knew is throttle them all the way up and go. But there is a certain calibration that you're supposed to do, and each machine's different, but it may be running at half throttle to put out what it's supposed to. An older machine may be more.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of people say, we don't see them or hear them. I know my house is 50 feet from the road, and when my guys come by, I'm like, he didn't even come by here last night. Well, look at the map. Yeah, he did.
But y'all do track the.
Yes,
the routes,
everything
so-
is GPS tracked. In our monthly report, we provide the map for that particular zone that night. we may do 2 or 3 zones
Right.
in a night.
That
We may
way,
do
we
one.
just need to be able to show the public.
That's
If
right.
they call, hey, y'all were here on such and such day at this time.
And, I can even take it further as to what we call the spray path that is in our, application that we use. I can pinpoint, you give me an address, I can pinpoint it. I can tell you how fast they were going, whether the sprayer was on or off.
Okay.
Just about everything.
All
But, it's like if somebody has a question, well, they not, try to find me out an address so I can, pinpoint.
Thank you.
But you try to cover every bit of the county once a month,
Yes, sir.
at a minimum.
I'll go ahead and start forwarding the report that they send in to you guys. I will warn you, you can't look at it on your phone, it's a big report.
Yes.
Be somewhere to look, but it maps each road that they spray.
And it's generally, what, Mr. Keith, 35 pages, I believe.
42 on this.
Yeah, you don't even have to send that to my phone.
Keith, you can keep my
Yeah,
copy, and I'll just come up here and look at it.
Yeah.
Are y'all putting these, you used to put tablets or something out in highly populated areas where there's water standing? Do you do that now?
We don't really use tablets as
I
per
don't-
se. It's we've actually gone to a liquid larvicide, which is far, far more efficient because it'll float. And that's our day technicians, in addition to the trapping, they are assigned a zone each day and are multiple days if needed. They see some standing water that's on public property.
Right.
They get out and they take 3 scoops of that water, and if they see the larvae in it, they're gonna treat it. And on that report, that is probably sometimes 7 or 8 pages of that report is, cause it documents each location, how much they treated. We use a grouping, say 50 to 100 or 100 to 300, cause you can't count each and every one of them. But that's what we do. And if there is, somebody calls in, I've got mosquitoes out the wazoo, I'll send a team over, and that basically half-mile area, and, do some enhanced where they're sure enough looking, maybe knocking at doors or whatever.
Well, I know the area around the reservoirs has plenty of them.
I can imagine. And that is one area that is worked pretty heavy because of that. And now I guess you have the backwaters and what have you where it's not, much movement, gets stagnant, don't have fish in there to take care of the problem. And that's one reason we do, and y'all will see that on that report that, I said, well, they hit that one all the time. I mean, well, there's a reason. So.
Scott, did y'all catch the virus or the mosquitoes with the West Nile before that you were notified, or was it after?
The human case, we were
Right.
notified.
Okay.
Then our traps, until the state reports to us. We don't have the multi-million-dollar worth of equipment to test it. But what our requirements are, from my higher-ups, say we trap Monday night, we pick them up Tuesday. By Wednesday afternoon, they've been counted and identified, and they're at the state lab. And now, once it gets over to the state, we've got results same day. I've had to call a week later, hey, where's my results? So we're kind of at their mercy a little bit, but they're pretty efficient.
I think we got it all worked out where they were sending us the information. They can't tell us, pinpoint exactly where the case is, but they can send us information
Yeah,
within a
what-
general area.
They probably send y'all the same exact map we get.
Yeah.
They're not gonna, for HIPAA reasons,
HIPAA
they're,
reasons, yeah.
but basically the center of that map is where it's at.
Yeah.
And they give, depending on what trap numbers look like, or if it's a human case, we do a 1 mile each way of the center of that map. If it's just a trap indicated and it's 5 or 10 in there, we're gonna do a 1/2 mile each direction from the trap. And, cause that's their flight path, you know. A 1/2 mile, basically at the most, is what these are gonna fly from where they were born at. So,
All right.
All right, thank you.
Well, we
Thank you,
appreciate
Scott.
and, you know, if anybody has any question at any time, you know, get with Mr. Grantham or, you know, y'all call me, you know, I'm available anytime.
All right,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to follow up, VDCI and Scott have been very responsive on any kind of complaint that comes from the citizens or whatever. They get on it that very next day. So very thankful for that. And for those of you that are new on the board, just the way we used to do it many years ago, because I was over the mosquito spread, we just go out and blanket the area in the districts all the time. And science told us that that's like giving a kid an antibiotic every time he gets sick. Eventually, that antibiotic quits working. So now they've gone to more of a trap-based count. However, if you have Ms. Johnson call in and need something, they'll definitely take care of it. And Mr. Bishop, to answer your question, the Department of Health is the sole source to let us know whenever there is a human case. So as we had WLBT or one of the news companies jump the gun and sent a bunch of stuff out that was incorrect, we were on it immediately and we narrowed down what the situation was and got it corrected. So when we know something, we only listen to Mississippi Department of Health. So appreciate you.
And we
you.
do have, you know, just to say, we do have a second laboratory that's, a paid lab over in Dallas, that if the state's way behind, we can send over there. They're a federally approved, laboratory. I don't know the scientific stuff, but,
We understand.
so we can use them. And, you know, if I see, you know, they're getting behind at the state. Cause they do the testing for the entire state. And, but like Mr. Grantham was saying, these mosquitoes, they do build up a resistance extremely quickly. You know, I was always told, you see a cockroach, well, you kill him with something. Well, you know, his offspring is gonna be almost immediately resistant. And so we do change our formulations as far as strength, up, down, a different chemical, a fill-in where we say, we normally spray permethrin. Okay, next week we're gonna do nothing but Delta Guard to try to avoid that resistance, so.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If y'all have any questions, let me know.
Yes, sir, thank you. Before we get into road manager and Mike Harrison, I see we have some visitors here that are way down the list. Would it be okay if we move down item L on page 3 and go ahead and handle this matter?
I think that's under my section. Am I right,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
President?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Is it L? My agenda has it as K. I'm sorry, it is L. Never mind. Here we go. Discussion of and potential action to award a standby contract for disaster debris removal and disposal. Gentlemen, you will recall that we issued a notice of publication for a standby contract for disaster debris removal and disposal. What in the world is that? Well, as a standby contract, it means that it's standing by, it's sitting there, it's not activated until a given event happens. That event happens to be a disaster of a magnitude that it is likely to be a declared emergency. It may be a statewide emergency, it may be a local emergency, but it is of a significance that it is likely to qualify for FEMA reimbursement for the removal and disposal of the debris that results from that disaster. That could be a hurricane, that could be a tornado, that could be some other disaster that all of us hope never hits us, but we're wise to be prepared for that eventuality and to put ourselves in a position so that if there is in fact a declaration that provides for some form of reimbursement for the cost to deal with that disaster, that we are best suited and prepared to be able to achieve the maximum reimbursement. That's what this is all about. Get yourself ready. And so we have, we issued a notice to anybody willing, wanting to submit a request for proposals, response to the request for proposal. We sent that to the newspaper and to the state of Mississippi, and we asked for proposals that will provide for eventually the execution of a standby contract. That contract has eligibility to be as long as 5 years in duration with successive renewal periods. And so this could be a situation where this board puts this county in a position to have access to qualified professionals that can help us with disaster debris removal and disposal for a lengthy period of time and cover us for any magnitude of disaster over a lengthy period of time. In other words, we want to get this done, we want to get a contract in place, and we want to be able to tell the public we are as prepared as we feel like we can be. I'll mention now that you have already authorized the issuance of another RFP for disaster debris monitoring, and that RFP, I think, is already in publication, if I recall correctly, and so at some point you will consider vendors who can provide monitoring services that go with this, what you're going to be asked to do today. We had 2 proposers that responded to your request for proposal, 2 responders. I want to say that as a member, one of the members of the committee assigned by the board to review proposals, that I appreciate both of these vendors, both of whom did a fantastic job of submitting their information to us about who they are and what qualifications they have and what level of service they can provide, what experience they have, how familiar they are with Rankin County, what their financial resources are to be able to take care of the costs associated with all of this work that they're going to be involved in doing for us, and references and other things. And so each of these proposers did a magnificent job of showing who they are and telling us as best they can what they intend to do. Okay? So those have been reviewed. I'm here to share with you today that we have evaluation criteria and we have responses to the evaluation criteria as determined by the committee who was selected. That committee is myself, your county administrator, and your director of emergency operations, Mr. Brantley.
Craig, while you're handing that out, it's my understanding that for us to be reimbursed, one of the ingredients is that we have someone out there that's evaluating, and I guess that's keeping numbers and reports that are turned in by someone other than a county official. Is that?
Mr. President, maybe the simplest way to say it is, it's not impossible to get reimbursed if the county undertakes all of the disaster debris removal and disposal itself. It's not impossible to get reimbursed, but it may as well be. When you start dealing with FEMA and their requirements, if you don't dot every I and cross every T, you're not gonna get reimbursed. And I'm proud to say, and I think our people here in our community are grateful, that we don't have to deal with that kind of emergency very often. We have had to deal with that level of emergency in the past, but they don't come around real frequently. And we are not, the county is simply not prepared. It's not in a position to be able to deal with the magnitude of that kind of emergency and the paperwork associated with how you make yourself eligible for reimbursement. We don't have staff to be able to go around and deal with all of that. And so we have asked professionals who do this for a living and have mechanisms in place and policies and procedures in place and technology in place. We've asked them, why don't you oversee the disaster debris removal and disposal piece of this, and you make sure that it's done in a way that checks all the boxes for the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency. Make sure those boxes are checked, because your people, your Brian Granthams and your sheriff and your county administrator and you guys, y'all are gonna be out there with chainsaws working. You're not gonna be keeping up with documents and dealing with eligibility responsibility and marshaling vendors from the area who probably are gonna be occupied, by the way, dealing with their own emergencies, right? So we need a third party to help us manage the disaster. That's what this is. And not rely on our own people to both respond to the emergency and manage the emergency. That's why we want to get ahead of this. By doing this now, what you are doing is you're putting yourself in the best position, number one, to have an adequate response to an emergency when it happens. Because the contract that you enter into will say, we are committed to Rankin County to be there in its greatest hour of need. That's what the contract's gonna say. And our expectation will be, you know what? If the disaster hits, we expect to only be a phone call away. So they're committed to that. There's a lot more that goes into it, but that's as much as I think as I need to say. I've handed each of you the evaluation criteria. What you have is a package for each of the two entities that responded. The first is SDR, Southern Disaster Recovery LLC. You want to start with Southern Disaster Recovery. You see that they're out of Greer, South Carolina. Mr. Al McLaren came to a pre-bid meeting, a pre-response meeting, and was here, and so I was able to meet Mr. McLaren. We have representatives of SDR here with us today, and I appreciate very much their response. I want to go through the evaluation criteria with you. We'll do this for SDR, and then when we get to the second one, it'll be the same evaluation criteria. So I wanted you to see, and the sheets that are in front of you are my score sheet, Mr. Grantham's score sheet, and Mr. Hicks' score sheet. What you'll notice about SDR is that for each of the criteria that are listed there for your evaluation, SDR scored the highest point value for each of the criterion that are listed. The final score, as determined by each of Mr. Hicks, myself, and Mr. Grantham, is SDR scored 100 points out of 100. And those criteria, and I'll just give you a few here: the capacity, the skill of the respondent to perform the contract, capability of the respondent or the firm to perform the contract or the service promptly within the time specified without delay or interference, the character, integrity, reputation, judgment, experience, and efficiency of the respondent, and the familiarity with Rankin County, their financial ability, their ability to provide the resources that they will need to address the emergency. One of the primary criteria that you'll appreciate is the price. And so as you look through your score sheets, and I encourage you to do that when you have time, what you'll notice is that there were similar scores for the second proposer except for a couple of criteria where it really stood out. One of those is price. And so an evaluation point was, what is the price of the services listed in the proposal? And SDR has the best pricing structure of the two proposers that are there. That was one of the most critical pieces to the evaluation. If you'll turn to DRC. DRC is your second proposer. DRC is an emergency services company. They are out of New Orleans or out of the Louisiana area. And they have strong qualifications. I want to say this, DRC's proposal is solid. It is thorough. They clearly have financial capacity. There would be no hesitation at all, but for the fact primarily that their pricing structure is, in cases across the board, higher than SDR's pricing services for priced services. And so that was probably the most critical component of the evaluation, where the scores deviated from one another. There was a secondary issue for the committee, and that is in determining the kind of emergency that is potential for Rankin County, and one that we've seen in the past is one that comes up through the coast. Katrina came right up the gut of Waveland, and it impacted significantly Rankin County. When looking at these two proposers, where they are based, where their headquarters are located, you've got one in Metairie, that if we get another one of those, if we get another Katrina, an outfit out of Metairie is going to be dealing with a Katrina right there where they are and right close by. An outfit out of Greer, South Carolina is probably not as impacted. And so in our opinion, the kind of emergency that we could see here, it made a difference to us as a committee that we could call on folks that were in another part of the country that could potentially be unaffected by that emergency itself. Does that make sense? And so both the pricing and that factor and other factors also came into play. So the recommendation of the committee is that this board award a standby contract and authorize board counsel and the county administrator to immediately enter into negotiations to secure a final contract for standby contract services to SDR, Southern Disaster Recovery LLC, for at least a 5-year agreement with renewals, and to bring that agreement back to this board for authorization and execution. That would be my recommendation, and I would need a motion to that effect.
So moved.
All right, Scott makes a motion to approve SDR. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? I second that motion. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Would anyone on behalf of the company or Gunner, do you want to speak to the board?
I know y'all got plenty of business. Thank you. I will say SDR is one of the most reliable businesses that I have been involved with when it comes to disaster removal. They'll do a great job in Rankin County, and we're honored to help them in this endeavor. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
It never comes, but if it does, we're going to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. Gentlemen, unless y'all have any other questions, that'll be all on item L, and we go back to our agenda, Mr. President.
All right.
I'm going to see these folks out, if that's all right.
Okay. Mr. Harrison. Yeah. Different names.
Mr. Harris.
I know, but look at the writing is the same. Different person?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, that's the top. This one is, Craig. Oh, and this one is Brown.
Good morning.
Got a few permits on the thing. Like to request Comcast utility permit on Clear Road and South Eagle Ridge Drive, District 1.
Someone make a motion.
Second.
Who made the motion? Sid? Skid made the motion. Jay seconded the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
I got B, Central Rankin Water Association, conduct a water line along county roads, which would be McLean Circle, Kitchen, 7th Day Venice, Old Place, Green Oak, Woodhaven, West Road, Sunset, and Old Place Court, or Early Road, District 1.
I make a motion.
Sid made the motion.
Second.
Jay seconded the motion. Any other discussion?
Hey, I'd like to discuss something real quick. On these water associations, you know, we just had an issue in my area with a water association on a road. When they're going under these roads, are they gonna put that in a casing?
Yes, the new lines are in a casing.
Okay.
Everything we permit will be encased, even these telephone lines.
And these water associations realize that?
Yeah, we're
Just
monitoring.
make sure monitor that.
Yeah, I mean, if they're on this and they submit a permit, they get monitored and inspected.
Okay.
Request approval
Well,
for,
we gotta go.
We hadn't voted. All right. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. C.
request approval for Union Water Association for a main water line along and across Woodrow Martin and Gabe Hawkins.
I'll make a motion approved.
Second.
Brad makes a motion to approve. Scott seconds that motion. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
That's all I got.
Okay, got it.
Quick update, we're pretty well through cutting the danger trees that we've been approved to cut for the year. Just wanted to let y'all know that we're pretty well done with that.
You're out of money, what you
Yeah,
saying?
we're out of money on that.
You're not done with the trees, but you're out of funds.
I'm out of funds, so
Yeah, okay.
just letting y'all know that, I think we ended up cutting right at 900 trees around the county. So still got some more, but that's where we at.
Well, hopefully with this, we can get you some, this upcoming
See,
budget.
you wanna talk about what we was discussing, those smaller trees and us doing some of them?
Yeah, well, I was just talking about, on some of these easier trees that's cut down, we could get somebody, our crew, some of these trees that we're just laying over on the property, we could be cutting some of them ourselves versus, I know there's a bunch of them out there, but I just think we could be cutting, saving the county a little money. We can cut some of the easier trees where we don't have to have a bucket truck and stuff like that to usually an issue with, doing some of them.
I don't see an issue in it, it's just a time factor of getting it done. I mean,
Right.
Just
only-
don't pull guys off of them, grading my gravel road
I
in
mean,
my district.
that's what I say, I mean, if somebody's cutting dead trees, they get pulled off of something else,
Right.
I mean.
But if we needed to hire,
But I mean,
So it's
we
staffing.
cut trees in the county every day.
Right.
If
Yeah, I
they buy
know, but-
one, we cut them down.
If you wanna cut them, sit out here and get them off the
But,
road.
just as far as pulling a crew off to go cut
got
dead
good
trees,
sound.
somebody's gonna have to do without.
So whenever we run out of asphalt money and
Yes,
we're
sir.
done doing all of our asphalt work, what do those guys do the rest of like during the winter?
Well, like right now, we're working work orders. I think I got 70 work orders on the books right now that we're working on.
They giraffe all
And,
winter.
I mean, we only just don't do asphalt work. I mean,
The same crew that was putting
doing
down,
recycle center right now, putting roads in for bridges. Got one crew dedicated on a road project right now that's just fixing base repair on a construction project,
So the winter isn't necessarily any
No, sir.
slowdown time.
No, sir. The winter's probably our busiest time, Jay, just 'cause when it starts raining, everybody starts calling about ditches draining and stuff like that. Just creates more and more work orders,
the same crew that was, this is within house, putting down some asphalt patches. I noticed 2 weeks later, we're out there cleaning ditches with the hoe and the dump truck and stuff, so it's the same
Yeah,
bunch of guys.
that's right. When you got, we can look around every corner in this area, to be done. And, when you got about 8 crews, it's a big county.
Well, I just know the dead trees, I mean, it's not gonna stop, I mean, it's not a.
No, it's not
1
gonna
year or
stop.
2 year, I mean, it's gonna be a while, we're not talking about a 1 or 2 years, it's gonna be, you know, a long time before we.
I mean, we're starting to see
Get
oak
out.
trees
Well,
now.
That storm that blowed through yesterday evening put down
I think
8 or 10
Shell's really
trees.
talking about though, it's like, man, those ones that it takes them less than 2 minutes to go cut and they charge us 500. If those small ones like that, if we couldn't just go whack them down ourselves.
Yes, sir, but I mean, there's 1 or 2 trees there, and then they got a bucket truck sitting right there. So, you know, you gotta weigh the cost, you know, you send a crew out there, 3-man crew, backhoe and everything, dump trucks to go cut 1 or 2 trees. It probably ended up really not costing you.
But
Well, you gotta have I'll be honest with you, you gotta have a little gravy with the, if you got all complicated work, then you drive your price up for your trees. You see what I'm saying?
I just didn't know we hired a couple, you know, additional, because it's like I said, this is not gonna be a year, you know, it's gonna be longer, and had somebody, you know, a crew, we've already got one guy that could be dedicated to the crew, you know, and, just to get the stuff that we can get, to save, you know, paying, cause I know we're on a contract price with the trees, you know, but, if that would just save us cut some of them ourselves, the ones that we can do without having a bucket truck and all that we can lay down and that falls on the property owners, you know, but of course I know you're gonna have to have a couple more men, a saw guy, you
Yeah,
know.
I mean, the thing is, yeah.
they need to defeat the purpose probably if we gotta hire somebody. By the time we pay them salary, that'll be,
Right.
Yeah, we worked out, I mean, it averaged, right at $500 a tree, get these trees cut out that we cut. I didn't think that
And that's
was-
not cleaning up, cause we're cleaning them up and getting rid of the debris ourselves.
That's not cleaning them up, but I'm gonna say the average tree we cut down was somewheres around 20 to 28 inches. That's a pretty good sized
so
tree.
we're not taking them to we're storing them till we get all our equipment in to be able to deal with them, right?
We're grinding them up right now.
Okay.
Yeah, they chew.
We're already grinding.
Are the grinders here?
Yeah.
Grinders here, we're
It's been
probably
grinding.
halfway through grinding, you know, we're grinding up stuff that was stockpiled, and we've had a lot of citizens in Rankin County that's let us stockpile this stuff on their land until we get there to get it done, you know, so that's been a cost savings for us right there. I mean, I know we had to get a grinder, but, you know, it is working.
Have
you
we
know.
found a source to be able to dispose of the shade?
I hadn't yet, I just hadn't got into it that much
What
yet.
about
Jay.
the burner?
It's be here probably next week.
Okay.
Next week or next. It's ready, and they're trying to line up a freight company to ship it right now,
Well,
so.
On the tree removal, if you averaged $500 and these trees are 25 inches, that's a heck of a deal, because I know several people that hired someone to come cut one out of their yard, and man, I'm gonna say the cheapest I heard was about $1,500. Yeah, and that's just to lay it down.
So, I thought, you know, we've done pretty
No.
good around the county, and, I mean, it's a long ways to go. I'm gonna say we may have touched, we're under 5% touched to what we got out here, but we have cut a lot of dangerous trees, and what we focused on was the trees that was really hanging over the road.
Yeah.
That we felt like was gonna drop limbs in the road every time wind blew, so.
Well, let me ask you this, when
Yes, sir.
y'all out on a job, are you either putting in a culvert or cleaning a ditch out, you got a mini hose sitting right there, and if you had a saw on the truck and there was a tree right there,
Yeah, we cut it.
you cut it and just
We
lay it
cut it,
down?
and, I mean, if we're right there working or whatever, we cut it and do, you know, we cut the majority of them that we do, but we just don't go around, I don't have a crew dedicated just going around cutting trees now. I mean, we're cutting, like Steve said, we're digging ditches down through there and there's a dead tree and we can throw it with traco and a saw, we put it on the ground. But I'm gonna say, you know, probably 85% of them had to be taken down, top or something had to be taken out of them because either a power line was in the way or fence under it. There was some obstacle right there that just didn't allow you to throw the whole tree. So, you know, I'm gonna say it was that percentage that we had to take down with some kind of bucket truck unit.
Has
All
the
right.
power company been helping out pretty good, or, you know, on their trees? or
Yeah, they've done pretty good. I mean, they're just like us. They
Behind
went through
and-
and
yeah.
cut what they could with the funds they've got, and they're still cutting trees, but I mean, they're just, you know, everybody's exhausted a lot of funds in this, and, so, and we've got, you know, like Southern Pine and Central Electric, and even Energy's helped us cut a few down, you know, that we needed down, you know, so we've all been working together to try to get this done.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Come on, Mr. Parker.
Morning.
Morning.
First item we have is approval of payout number 4 from Hemphill Construction for work on Gunner Road Improvements Phase 2 in the amount of $244,832.07, and authority to issue that check.
That's in District One, isn't it?
Yes, sir, that's District 1.
Is this the final payment?
No, sir.
Not even final payment.
Y'all been watching Jimmy Fallon?
All right, do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Sid makes a motion. Have a second.
Second.
Jay seconds a motion. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Is that the end of the water line piece?
There's a little bit, there's actually some road and water line in that pay request, but I think, I'm not sure it's actually been 100% final, but that should be pretty much the end of the water line, yeah.
I think I wrote down there, it's pretty close to the, yeah.
All of it's installed, I just don't know if they've cleaned up their payout yet on that. Item B, Mr. President, this is a District 3 project, Program Element 3.02, Stormwater Detention Restoration and Hydrologic Restoration at Live Oaks. We're recommending approval of payout number 2 from Hodges Land Services in the amount of $69,564.19, and authority to issue the check.
Have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Brad makes a motion. Scott seconds a motion. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I went out there yesterday and everything's looking good. They're doing a good job, but man, that road is getting hammered.
Yeah, the road is, and we knew it was gonna be an issue, we just didn't know how bad it was gonna be an issue.
I mean, of course, I know there's a time frame. I mean, of course, we've had a lot of dry weather and they've been able to work. What do you think the timeline still on this project?
I'm not sure, I'll have to check with them and see, Brad, I'm not sure exactly how much longer they've got.
They use that road the entire project.
Yes.
We designated one route for them to come in and out, yeah.
I mean, it's
For that
almost-
purpose, that was the
It's
reason.
almost turned to gravel road now. All right.
There's nothing in the contract about the maintenance or
So-
fixing the road back?
Yes.
There is some addressing that,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Item C, Mr. President, is a subdivision Persimmon Ridge. We're recommending approval of the final plat and a letter of credit in the amount of $36,200. That's a District 4 development. 3 lots, a little over 6 acres apiece. This is on Mount Helm. This is on the gravel portion.
Yep, and that
the
30-something
letter-
thousand is to go along with, putting hard surface on it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Jay seconds.
So you get some asphalt on your gravel road?
Our developer is gonna put some asphalt on our gravel road.
Shorten it up, won't it? Instead
Yeah.
of 20 miles of gravel, you got.
19. All right, let's go on, move on to the next one, Freedom Ridge.
All in favor, I think.
Item D.
I don't think we did all in favor.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Item D, Mr. President, is Freedom Ridge Part 5. This is a District 4 development. We're recommending approval of the final plat and the letter of credit. I believe that's going to be a bond in the amount of $330,902. On this one, full disclosure, we're actually waiting on the water approval letter, and we don't have the bond in hand yet. We're supposed to get those in the next day or so. We just didn't want to hold it up till the next meeting, so.
While we've been sitting here, I got the form of the collateral, the
Yep.
security for the installation, wearing service and other requirements. I got it on my email. I can't really read it on my phone, sorry. So just a condition to approval. needs to be
Condition.
Satisfactory collateral instruments, satisfactory,
Water letter.
documentation, information to the engineer with respect to any incomplete stuff. So you're conditioning your approval of this final plat on all of that stuff.
All right,
And we won't sign the plat until
right.
we get those in hand. We'll hold it.
all right. Have a motion? I make the motion.
Second.
All right, Scott seconds the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Item E, Mr. President, is on Vintner's Crossing. That's actually, I have trouble spelling it and pronouncing it. It's VINTNERS apostrophe S. Stage 3, we're recommending approval of final plat and a letter of credit in the amount of $77,984.78. That one also should be contingent on receiving the documents. We're waiting on the water and sewer approval letters. Everything's done out there. We've done the final inspection. Everything's in order. We just need those department letters.
All right, do I have a motion?
Yes, sir. Motion.
All right, Scott makes a motion. Do I have a second? Brad seconds the motion. Any other discussion? I have a question. Where is Vintner's Crossing?
It's on Vine Drive.
Behind,
Oh,
across
okay.
the street from the old middle school.
Just very close to the city limit line then.
Yes, sir, right at the edge.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Item F, Mr. President, is to authorize the chief LPA official, which is the board president, to request activation of the old Highway 49 Cleary Road to Old 49 overlay project through MDOT LPA program. That's District 1. That's the funds we're receiving through the CMPDD process. And first thing we have to do is to authorize activating, kicking off that project.
All right, do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Sid makes a motion.
Second.
Brad seconds the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Hey Craig, where do we stand at with the, Joe Edwards, us getting asphalt put down?
Yes, sir. We are in the plat approval phase of that settlement arrangement. Mr. Edwards is responsible to present us with a plat that is acceptable and in conformity with the settlement. And once we have that, the board will act on approving that plat, and that will put us in a position to then move in and start the street rehabilitation part of the process. We are still waiting on an acceptable plat. We met with Mr. Edwards, his engineer, and his legal counsel a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and went through in detail, looking at a draft plat, and explained the areas on the plat that were still not acceptable and needed correction, and we are now waiting on a corrected version that I can ask you guys to act on.
So what is the need for us needing to get the plat? We can still have leverage on it if we go ahead and fix the road.
The problem is, Jay, that the plat dictates and determines exactly what the scope of the road construction will be. We gotta know exactly where we're building this road to.
Well,
and
I'm
where-
talking about just going out there and finishing where we started.
There's not anything to stop us from moving in and taking care of existing roads that are not inside phase 2A of this development. So up to a point, we can fix the road. I think the hesitation, Jay, was you've got residents who live in the new part who are not gonna get their road fixed, who are gonna wanna know why did y'all stop?
They definitely wanna know.
Yep. Yep. So at the moment, our preference would be, and I think the engineer, I hope he'll back me up on this, our preference would be, let's get an approved plat so we know exactly what it is we're supposed to be doing, and then we'll do it. Can I agree? Okay. Okay, there you go. Not an
I'd
acceptable
rather
answer.
go and just do it. But it's been a year since we've been out there and done this, a little over a year, actually. But anyway, moving on.
So you wanna go ahead and just do it?
Well, I think y'all need to go ride out there. I know if I lived on that road, I'd be pissed, especially if I have a, $800,000 house or $1 million house sitting there.
When they built the new road, were they traveling over the portion that would be approved?
The local traffic, yes. The local traffic, yes. The
Construction.
construction traffic, no.
But if the county builds the road, will that construction traffic go on the new road?
Yes,
I'm confident.
Some of them will have to.
I'm confident that there are pieces of the new construction that are gonna get some construction traffic. That's just by virtue of the fact that the construction entrance has to be oriented in a particular way. So you're gonna have some construction traffic that travels over some road. I hope that what we'll do is we'll build the base up and
Well,
put.
now, I thought
put-
we were coming in from the other way, that we were gonna go through the woods, basically, to get,
Construction traffic will have to go from Church Road through Mr. Edwards' property
Yeah.
and attach to an existing street that is substandard.
right.
We're not building construction
So
roads.
it's
We're
not as much as that road as the two offshoot roads.
That's correct.
that They're built out already.
And both of those roads, Jay, at least one of those roads will be heavily utilized as a part of the construction traffic.
What?
Yeah. One of those legs, one of the cul-de-sacs that you're talking about, Del Rio,
I thought the one that goes straight is where it goes to.
there will be new lots on all of those cul-de-sac points. There will be new lots.
Right, well, there are some lots still available.
Yes,
there,
sir.
so.
There will be construction traffic, and the primary route of the construction traffic will be Church Road. What direction is that? South, and then connecting to Del Rio at the cul-de-sac, and coming along Del Rio back to what's called Plantation Boulevard, and then going east from there, and that's where most of the new lots will be. But they're gonna have to use a portion of Del Rio as the construction route.
Yeah, I don't know the name of those roads, but
Del Rio, Durango.
I know there's some very expensive houses over there
Yes.
that they having to go through some crap.
Yes, sir. We are waiting on Mr. Edwards and his engineer and his legal counsel to get us an acceptable final plat for your review. Okay. Gentlemen, are we ready?
Yes.
All right, so I've got multiple settings of public hearings. The first three, A, B, and C, I would like one motion if we can to set for August 29. You see those hearings that are being set there. They are nuisance considerations for August 29.
That's my motion.
All right.
Second.
Brad makes a motion to approve for setting on August the 29th, A, B, and C on the agenda, and Scott seconds that motion. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Mr. President, items D, E, F, G, H are all settings of either conditional use permit requests or dimensional variances. Those will be for September 3 at 9 a.m.
All right, do I have a motion to group D through H, and they will be set for public hearing on September the 3rd. Do I have a motion to approve setting these?
I make a motion.
Sid makes a motion, Jay seconds a motion. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. President, item I under my section is a public hearing on the John Adams Fannin Community Center conditional use permit. We'll open that public hearing. Mr. Adams is seeking a conditional use permit to construct a 24-by-40 pavilion for the Fannin Community Center on Church Road. This is a 2-acre parcel. Property is zoned RE1. Property is owned by Fannin Community Center. I looked this up. They are a nonprofit 501c3, been organized for decades. They are proposing to place the structure on an existing slab from a previous pavilion that was torn down. They're intending to add a picnic table for the community, and it'll be available for the community to use at no charge. In the future, they plan to add a walking trail on this property. This is a conditional use request. I'll ask if there's anyone here to speak in opposition to the John Adams conditional use permit to construct a pavilion. Is anyone here to speak in opposition on that matter?
Where's it located, Scott?
Church Road, right across
I
from
know.
the two churches.
Oh.
Kind of, McLaurin, is it McLaurin? It's,
I don't remember the names.
Toward the other end, toward the north end of Church Road? Or in the middle?
in the middle.
Where it's real wooded and?
Yes, yes, where the construction entrance. was.
Who, are the property owners are a nonprofit?
Yes, sir.
And who is gonna maintain
The
this building?
entity, the property owner will be responsible to keep it up and to maintain it. If it falls into a nuisance condition, they'll be in here, Steve, just like any other nuisance consideration. It'll be the responsibility of the entity that owns the property to maintain it.
What happened to the old building?
They just tore it down, it was in disarray.
Right.
This may be an appropriate point if you decide to grant the conditional use, you can establish conditions. Condition could be that it has to be maintained, spick and span, kept spotless. Somebody designated to have responsibility
Landscaping.
for maintenance, be a point of contact for the county. There's any number of conditions that you can set.
Yeah.
Hours of operation, what can and cannot happen there. You've got enormous flexibility to set conditions that you think are appropriate for this.
Be gated.
Is this hearing right now is when we set these conditions?
Yes, sir.
All right. I would put some hours. The day of the week, I'd allow Sunday because of church stuff. I would expect some landscaping, and maintenance.
If I could suggest that the church, which is directly across the street, and I think that's the affiliation here, am
Yes,
I
sir.
right, Scott?
Yes, sir.
It seems to me it'd be appropriate for them to have dinner on the grounds there, Steve, on a Sunday. So if the
Yeah.
church wants to use it, that could be a condition. It's available for church use on Sunday, but not available for public use on Sunday.
I mean,
That could
it's
be a
walking
condition.
Trail after church,
It's a
people
walking
walk
trail,
on
really.
it. I mean, if they build a walking trail, people like to walk at the church.
It's fine with me.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, I wouldn't close it to the
I didn't.
pub, okay.
I didn't say that.
All right.
Yeah. I guess we need to have some way that the church manages it. Whatever goes on in there has to go through the church. Okay, I don't know how you put that in writing, but,
We need a church point of contact
Yeah.
to serve as the person primarily responsible for overseeing the use of this facility.
yeah.
Who is the church point of contact? It may be Mr. Adams, but
Yeah.
some church point of contact is responsible for overseeing the use of the facility and controlling that use.
Yeah.
We would like to see that it be utilized primarily for church purposes and then secondarily for community purposes.
Yeah.
But somebody needs to kind of be responsible for it.
Yeah.
The third thing would be, we don't want it used after a certain point in the evening. That we don't need folks gathering out there at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So I would say hours of operation are, it needs to be closed and not available for use and made secure to the extent that it can be, after a certain point, 8 p.m.
Oh, that's a little bit early in the summertime. Some don't get dark till 8:30.
You gotta remember, they have like them youth weekends. They might stay there.
I would be flexible and say 10 p.m.
All right?
Does that sound reasonable?
Good with that.
Okay? 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. or 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.?
Yeah.
All right, that'll be your hours of operation.
I can't think of, I'm sure there's other things, but right now I can't think of.
Brian and I'll come up with some conditions that are kind of in keeping with the flavor of this discussion. We can come up with 3 or 4 that
Yeah.
seem to make sense,
I
and
would like it,
we'll
you
run
know,
it by y'all.
Be a building, being that's coming through a nonprofit through the church, for it to have a church, the events, have a church atmosphere. Which doesn't mean if one of their members is having, a family gathering, that they couldn't do that. But, it'd be different
Yeah.
if somebody just wants to throw a party and have a band over there.
You want the church to bless whatever the
Yes,
event is.
yes.
All right, we can come up with
Yeah.
a point of contact and a way to sort of police the use of the facility, so that it has a church point of contact and a church
I mean,
oversight.
I can just see down the road 2 or 3 years from now, somebody from the church calling the sheriff's department, there's a party out here, we can't get them to stop. come kick them out.
Yep.
In the church.
So
And
I think they
sheriff.
might need some signage that says use of this facility is restricted to church approval or something like that. This point of contact at the church is who you should contact about using this facility. I think we can structure the conditions so that it's clear.
Yeah.
Okay? Any other thoughts on that? We'll route those conditions after we get them together. Brian and I will work on those, and we'll get them to you. Anything else?
No, sir.
We just need a motion to approve it with those conditions and the conditions that we'll route to you guys for final approval.
Motion.
All right, Scott makes a motion, I'll second it. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Gentlemen, next item is kind of a follow-up. This item comes before you at the request of the developer of the proposed tax increment financing plan that you recently heard about called Brandon Heights. What we have been advised of, and I think there's some level of confirmation on this, is that the city of Brandon intends to act with respect to some requests that have been made by the county at the City of Brandon Board of Aldermen meeting scheduled for September the 3rd, that evening. And so certain requests that are on the table from Rankin County will be considered by the full Board of Aldermen, and we expect a resolution of all of those matters as soon as the evening of September the 3rd. If that in fact occurs, what you have done to date is you've set a public hearing on the Brandon Heights tax increment financing plan for October the 7th. So there's over a month's time between the September 3rd action of the city of Brandon and your pending action on October the 7th. This request from the developer is for you to consider resetting your action on the Brandon Heights TIF plan request for your September the 16th meeting, which would capture about 3 weeks of time. I was concerned that we not be in a situation where we are unsure of what the finality of the city's determination of the county's request is. I was concerned that we not be in a position where you would act on this before we had finality. But if the city acts on September the 3rd, we will know for certain whether there is finality or not by September the 16th. Okay?
Okay.
So I have no problem with this request. That's why it's on the agenda before you. So what you'll be doing and what I'll need a motion to is to reset the public hearing on the Brandon Heights tax increment financing plan and your resolution of intent to adopt and your authorization to publish notice of that hearing. I need a motion to approve all of that for September the 16th at 9 a.m.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Brad makes a motion, Scott seconds the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes.
Now that you've acted, let me clarify that if on September 16th, we do not have finality for some reason, you will not be acting on September the 16th. If there's any uncertainty whatsoever, you will not be acting on September the 16th. Item K is a discussion of a potential action to authorize the execution of and documentation evidencing Rankin County's participation in a multi-district federal piece of litigation that resolves claims that involve the charging of an illegal interchange fee by various credit card issuers during the period January 1, 2004 through spring of 2019.
What is this?
So there is federal court litigation that was filed on behalf of credit card entity users of credit cards against multiple credit card issuers, MasterCard, Visa, the usual suspects in the credit card industry. The allegations of that lawsuit, which was filed years ago, the allegations are that those credit card issuers charged illegal interchange fees. They charged in an illegal fashion, fees associated with the privilege to use a card for a given transaction. Those fees were charged against vendors who use the cards, okay? And users of credit cards. And so those fees were determined by the federal court to be illegal, and there is a damage claim that has resulted, and these credit card issuers have placed money on deposit to settle the claim. If you think about the asbestos litigation, those asbestos companies did something very similar to that. And you'll see advertisements that say there has been a settlement and you may be eligible to recover. That's where we stand. We've been approached and told that the county, because the county made credit cards available to our constituents for multiple purchases, transactions involving the county is eligible to participate in this resolution. So we would like to at least present a claim. We may not get $1, but we would like to at least present a claim. The agreement here is that it costs Rankin County nothing to present a claim. In fact, you're not obligated to pay for any associated work with this at all unless and until there is in fact a recovery under the settlement. So if we get $1, we will have to pay a fee for the privilege of participating. That fee is 20%, by the way, which is not out of the ordinary. It's not unusual. It's not exorbitant. It's right in line, if not lower than what would be a typical fee associated with this kind of work. So I would request a motion to authorize our participation and the execution of an agreement and a fee associated with this not to exceed 20%. And we move on and see what happens.
All right, do I have a motion?
Second. Or I'll make.
I was gonna say, okay. Jay makes a motion.
I'll second.
Brad seconds the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Last item under my section is M. We've already covered L. Item M is a discussion of an MDOT project, the intersection of Highway 25 and Highway 471. You guys know they're expanding to 3 lanes from right there at Castle Woods all the way up to 471. That's an MDOT project. When they get to 471 at that interchange, MDOT is going to install street lights at that interchange. It'll be like an LED tall light stanchions, exactly what you would see at a major intersection, that type of lighting project and activity. MDOT has approached both Rankin County and the city of Flowood and has requested the county's participation in that portion of the lighting project that would be affiliated with that intersection. The line, the city of Flowood municipal line, is right down the center of Highway 25 right away, and then points south of that intersection, and to the north of that intersection is unincorporated county. So Flowood has indicated, we're in the streetlight business, we know how to do that, we're happy to participate, and the rules of participation are this: MDOT will install all of the lighting facilities, the electricity, the hardware, the lights themselves, the engineering associated with that, any environmental approvals, et cetera, et cetera. Everything to get the lights up and operational is an MDOT responsibility. From there, the responsibility would then flip to both Flowood for their part and presumptively the county for our part to maintain and pay for the electricity associated with the lights in our part in perpetuity. I started that conversation by pointing out Rankin County is not in the street light business.
Right.
We don't do street lights in unincorporated county. There are a handful of exceptions that relate to spillway at Old Fannin. There are, in fact, some lights that we pay for that are in that general vicinity, but there are reasons why previous boards made those decisions and entered into those arrangements. But 99% of the rest of the county, if it's in unincorporated, and one of the ways that you can tell that you've just entered unincorporated county is ain't no more street lights. So I explained that to the MDOT rep. We're not in the street light business, and it would have to take a decision of this board for us to voluntarily get into the streetlight business at that interchange. In the meantime,
Start
I've
there, we can be
heard,
starting a lot of other places.
I hate to open up a new business.
Do we know, did they give you an estimated cost? on
no,
it?
sir, they are not in a position to tell me anything about cost. Neither theirs nor potentially ours. I have no idea how many
Well,
I didn't
lights.
even know
What
we
I can
paid.
see is, this would be a new intersection, but there's intersections about every mile, all the way to get out of the county.
Yeah.
And every one of those, people that live on there, they're gonna wanna know where their lights are.
So, you know, one of the things, Steve, that I think about is structurally, how do we handle a situation where we take on a responsibility like that, but we don't, it's not a normal part of our operations? Do we ask one of the road guys, well, you've got to drive up there and you've got to wait until it's dark enough for them to come on, and you gotta count the lights that are out? Structurally, how do you do that? Well, and then what do you do to fix it? We don't have equipment, so we would have to have a third-party source to do it, and that, by the way, that's exactly how we end up handling the few lights that we have up at Old Fannin, most of which are street lights themselves. They're traffic lights that have associated lighting with them, okay? So we can do it, but it's not easy for us to do it, and it's not a part of our normal stuff. This may solve itself. Let me add this information that I got recently. City of Flowood may step in and say, if the county's not in a position to do this, we want all the lights. This problem could solve itself, okay?
Do we have to address it?
It's only on here for discussion, and I
Okay.
need feedback to be able to talk to MDOT, because they're asking me, are y'all in? Are y'all in? Can we move forward? So I need to be able to respond to them on behalf of the board.
We're just not in the street light business.
If that's the position of the board, that's exactly what I'm gonna communicate, is, look, the county's just not in a position to be able to take on this
And I
responsibility.
don't think it's fair to pick this place, and then just a mile down the road, you have probably many more car wrecks.
It's a lot darker.
Well, it's darker, but, anyhow, I just don't wanna start it and then we can't stop it.
As I said, I think the city of Flowood may in fact step in and say, we're just gonna be responsible for that intersection, even though it's outside of our municipal boundary. They have the legal authority, by the way. Anything within a mile of their boundary, they can expend funds to provide utilities, provide services within a 1 mile area beyond their municipal boundary. So if Flowood's willing to do it, that'll be the answer to this, but I needed, as I said, I had to have a way to communicate back to them.
While you up there, do we need to take any kind of action on that Rankin First property today? Commissioners?
Yeah, thank you, Brad. I hadn't thought about that.
Another additional,
Yes, Mr. President.
do it right now.
Yeah, you want me just to add it, ask a request for an ad? This would be consideration and potential approval of a master plan associated with 150 acres that is immediately adjacent to Highway 18 bypass at the Rankin First Industrial Park entry. That would be an ad item.
I'll make a motion to add this to the agenda.
I second.
All right. Brad made a motion to add this, what do we call it?
It's an economic
Master
development
plan,
project
economic.
with a master plan.
All right. Brad made a motion to add that, under additional business, and Sid seconded that motion. Any other discussion?
Well, discussion, I mean, we've already approved this one time, and it's just coming back to us again to
Yes, sir.
approve again, I guess.
So if the board's of the mind
Well-
to add this,
We approved the land transaction.
Right.
And now we're being asked to approve the master plan.
The final.
Mr. President, before we deliberate on the merits, can we make sure we add it? Y'all need to vote on adding it to the
All
agenda.
right. We have a motion and a second, to add it. All in favor of adding? Any opposed? It's added. Motion passes. All right, now then.
Yes, sir. Okay, now on the deliberation piece, weeks ago, maybe even months ago, there was a master plan put together and brought before the board, this board, not for action, but as a discussion point. It was also considered by the Rankin First Board of Directors, and the reason that Rankin First is involved is this is Rankin First property, right? So the Rankin First Board of Directors has requested that this board be included in decisions that relate to the use of the 150 acres. It is an important piece of property. We like to refer to that as sort of our front door of economic development along the bypass. And so it's important to know what is planned for that piece of property and what sort of time frame we are talking about. When the Commissioner of Agriculture approached Rankin First and this board about this project, he mentioned that he had grand ideas about the utilization of the project. This board and Rankin First board said we would like to see a master plan for the use of the property and some level of time frame. You've been presented with a master plan and a 10-year time frame for build out. That's what's on the table. You conditioned Rankin First Board of Directors transfer of the property to the Department of Agriculture on a 10-year time cycle. In fact, you included a reverter in that transfer document that says if the property is not built out in the 10-year time frame, whatever is left undeveloped will revert to the ownership of Rankin First. And so we were very specific that we had to see movement. We couldn't just let the property be transferred and then sit idle. Okay? And so that master plan was put together. It's been presented to the Rankin First Board of Directors, and the Board of Directors at Rankin First have requested that you guys weigh in on what you now see to be Andy's master plan for development of the property. That's been shown to you, and you've had an opportunity, I hope, to kind of consider it, look through it, and then today, what we're being asked to do is to indicate this board's approval or not of the master plan as presented, so that now Rankin First can communicate that information back to the Department of Agriculture.
All right,
My motion gonna be to approve.
all right. Brad makes a motion to approve. I second that motion. Any other discussion?
Yeah, a little bit, just a little. I still like the idea of the intent, getting letters of intent, but I see that's down the river. But I would like to consider the fact if he's not able to attain the deed, that we bring it back to the table
And how long you wanna say?
well, if he can't get the deed,
I know, but let's say in a year.
that's fine. I mean, if
That
he
would-
can't get in a year, something's gotta be
Yeah,
wrong.
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, if they,
Can't get the deed executed within a year.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Is that from the original name or?
Now, cause they're saying we need a letter before we can give you an answer. I would say from now.
you
Can't get the
understand what we're
deed.
saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can't get
So
the deed
the
executed.
letter's actually gonna come from Rankin First Board of Directors.
Yeah.
So what I need you guys to do is to tell everybody, yourselves and everybody, that you are either in approval of the master plan as presented or you're not. And that's gonna get communicated to Rankin First Board of Directors, and they will communicate to the Department of Agriculture next steps. Our understanding is, although we're not parties to the conversation, our understanding
Just
is
approving the
that
plan.
somebody who has to approve this deed is waiting on an agreement between the Department of Agriculture and Rankin County
Yeah.
that we're okay with the master plan.
Yep.
Then they will, we're told, approve the deed,
Okay.
and the timeframe would work. So if you guys want to put conditions on your approval, understand that those conditions are gonna apply to Rankin First. That's who you're communicating with.
Okay.
You would tell them, you indicate your approval on our behalf of the master plan, but we want to see these conditions to your approval.
Follow up on the deed being signed.
We need the deed back in hand and recorded in the land records no later than 12 months from the date of your letter indicating the approval. That'll be a condition that you're putting on your agreement with the
good with
master
that?
plan. All right, the records will reflect that we're gonna give instructions to Rankin First Board of Directors about your approval of the master plan. Brad, is that your motion?
That's my motion.
All right.
Steve seconded.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, do we have any other additional business?
I do.
Before
I
you
think
go,
we got-
can
we
I
got-
ask
We got
these?
Keith next. We got Keith.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dang, I'm skipping right over Keith. I guess because we went.
That's fine.
Down to Little.
Blew you right off, man.
No, we skipped you.
I'll go home.
We skipped you to go to the additional.
That's fine.
business.
Item A under my section is authority to sign order of real and personal property assessment rolls for 2024.
Motion approved.
Brad makes a motion to approve.
Second.
Jay seconds a motion. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
And if it's the board's pleasure, I'd like to kind of hold off on going to B at this time.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
All right.
That's all I have.
Our tax collector and tax assessor are here. Do y'all have something to talk to us about?
Not at the moment.
Okay, okay. Oh, all right. All right, we have
Scott,
reason.
you got some additional
I
business?
do,
Oh, I'm
I do.
sorry.
I wanted to ask, Craig if he could help me. I had one of my constituents that, going back to Mr. Harrison's comments earlier about the tree cut, and us being, under an emergency declaration for our county, is the price gouging gonna be effective? Can that be part of this? Can that, the price gouging I spoke with you yesterday, or emailed with you about? Just
What do you mean the price gap?
price gouging where the cost of removing trees has gone.
These are
it's been
personal trees on
600, 800,
private property.
1,500, 2,000, 4,500. Is that, even
Yes.
consider, is that an option for, under this declaration?
So the answer is yes, and in fact, your declaration doesn't have to have any particular conditions in it, Scott. It just has to be declared. And there has to be some level of time frame. So the first question that needs to be asked is, did the board declare a local emergency with respect to dead and dying trees? Answer, yes. You did that in June. The question then is it still in place? Answer, yes. We still are dealing with an emergency situation with dead and dying trees. So the local emergency is still ongoing. Anytime there is either a statewide or local emergency, there is a particular statute that is triggered under Title 75, 2425, if you want to write that down, 75-24-25. That is what we call a price gouging statute, and it applies to any vendor, anybody providing goods and services in the area where the emergency is in place. So in this case, it would be in Rankin County, and it would be associated with goods and services being delivered that relate to that emergency. Okay? So these would be goods and services Scott's talking about. These are goods and services. How are you guys involved? Well, you're actually not involved except for the fact that you declared the emergency and it's still ongoing. Wherever there is a vendor that's providing goods and services and it can be proven that that vendor is charging a greater amount than was the price charged for the same or similar goods and services before the emergency, after the emergency, they are subject to being prosecuted for price gouging.
Well, how do we,
You don't do anything. We just simply need to affirm to anybody that is interested, whether it be vendors or constituents or the court system or our district attorney, there's anything over $500 out of line is a felony.
Is that handled by the DA's office?
That
or
would
is
be handled, it would be handled by the
county?
court system, Steve. So if it's 500 or less, it's gonna end up in justice court.
Yeah.
And it'll be prosecuted as a misdemeanor offense.
I don't think we'll see a $500 one. They won't
I
come
think
out there
most
for
of what we're
500.
talking about here is well over
Yeah,
that, from
well,
what I
10 times.
understand.
Well over that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So So there's two aspects that come to mind. This is kind of making sure that the public is aware that if you believe that there is price gouging happening during a declared local emergency, you need to take that up with the court. You need to go to the justice court and swear out an affidavit. You need to go sit down with the district attorney and say, I believe that there's a crime being committed here. Okay, that's on the constituent to do that. Of course, they can't do that if it's not a declared local emergency.
Who puts
which it
the
is.
case together?
The prosecutor would
So
put
the
the case together.
prosecutor would,
Mhm. The prosecutor's not gonna do that independently, I don't think, unless
And
a
that's the
law
DA?
enforcement officer witnesses this happening independently. If one of our deputies is out there and he's being told, this guy right here just told me it's gonna cost me $1,500 to take down one 6-inch pine, when I could've gotten that done for $200 6 months ago,
a year ago.
you got a potential crime happening right there. If a law enforcement officer sees that, then he can take action at that point. Will they do that? Not likely. Our guys aren't in a position to kind of evaluate this. It feels like a civil matter, so they're gonna have a problem with that, but.
During Katrina, the complaints when we got on price gouging, we contacted the Attorney General's office and worked with them on it. They be the primary.
Yeah.
Of course, as you guys are fully aware, that was a widespread emergency outbreak, and there was heavy awareness about it. It was getting a lot of publicity. We had all these folks coming in from out of state that were price gouging. Oh my gosh, it was terrible. So to some degree, there may be some confusion out there that there's a local emergency in Rankin County. We need to educate folks. Hey, if you're in the tree service business, you better be careful, because if you price gouge and it can be shown in a court of law that you're price gouging, you may go to jail.
It's gonna take the conviction of one of them for that to get really spread.
Yes, sir. You guys, again,
But do y'all
this
think-
board is not involved.
Do y'all think they should
Contact.
go to the Attorney General's office or to our local justice?
I think they should contact the sheriff's office, or police department, file an initial report, and then the investigator with that department should forward it to the Attorney General's office.
Would it be better received if a group did it? Like the Forestry Association or something like that, members.
I think you can take it on a case-by-case basis, each case,
Each, okay,
each individual will be a separate charge.
yeah,
Where the Forestry Association can help us is communicating to the folks
Yeah.
in the industry.
yeah.
Y'all better be careful in Rankin County, because they're under a local emergency, and Mississippi Code Section 75-2425 applies. You better go read that. So before you set a price, you better ask yourself, before June, what was I charging?
Yeah.
And usually when they give you a bid, they should get it in paper
Yeah,
to them, so they'll
absolutely.
have that as
They'll have
proof.
it as-
I mean, you don't have to have a deputy sitting there to.
Well, I wanted direction, I wanted guidance, and the price break is the 500 mark, below justice. 500.
The
Yeah.
hard part's gonna be proving what was the charge.
That's right.
What would the
Well,
charge have been
prior.
before the emergency
Right.
was
And
declared?
every tree's different,
Yeah,
they can
absolutely.
come up with it's gonna take a prosecutor that really gets into it
Yes.
and builds a case.
It's gonna have to be the worst example of it
Yep.
that they can find.
All right.
Thank you. That's what I.
Keith, you're finished? All right, we have a need for executive.
Yes,
Oh,
we do.
Property acquisition.
Looks like we got some property acquisition back here in the back.
So is Trey Jones not coming today?
No.
I thought he was supposed to come, let's talk about stormwater.
All right, do I have a motion to go into, do I have a motion for the
I'll make a
need
motion.
to go into
need to go
executive
into
for?
executive session.
Second that motion.
All right, Brad makes a motion and Scott seconds that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now then,
Make a motion to go into executive session for property acquisition.
All right, Brad makes that motion,
And personnel.
and personnel.
I'll second that motion.
All right, and Scott seconds that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion